good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, and welcome back to Slave Ages Podcast. And today's a special treat for you. If you've a long time Slang of Ages podcast listener, you know the name Mark Anthony Kay. You know Project Gemini because we've talked about his albums before. We've also talked about his work with Dark Monarchy. But here we're going to talk again about a new Project Gemini album. Mark, how are you?
Good, Preston. How are you today?
Fantastic. It's always a pleasure to speak to you about your new music. And you are so prolific in terms of your work with not only Project Gemini, but Dark Monarchy, and even some work under your own name. And this is an extraordinary album. So let me start off by ask you a little bit of a few questions about the Dark Days of Yesterday, your new album by Project Gemini. What is the meaning of the title, The Dark Days of Yesterday?
Well, this album was written a little while back. I mean, you mentioned me being prolific. I mean, I write a lot. Like I write like every day, at least sit down and try to write something. It doesn't necessarily have to pan out to be a full song, but parts here and there. And before I know it, I have enough material for a record. Ironically, when I wrote a lot of this stuff, lyrically speaking, I was going through a couple of tough patches with things. There's some family stuff and some personal battles going on and stuff like that. And when I looked back at the lyrics, I realized that there was sort of a running theme in there. Not all positive. Obviously, a lot of it was sort of. It's almost like venting through lyrics. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Complaining about things that I needed to get off my chest, but I wanted to make it vague enough that I didn't finger point into something specific or someone specific or some situation specifically. So and I'm happy to say that this is all kind of behind me now. I'm in a good place, and everything's good and moving forward with things. So I kind of looked at it as my dark days of yesterday, where things have happened from before and stuff like that. Like like there's like a song there, "You Are the One." When you look at that title, you think it's going to be something positive about somebody who's a great impact on me. In fact, it was something opposite. It was a you know a certain individual that sort of was not a good person to be in my life at the time. So and I kind of put that into lyrics. So and it's sort of situations like that.
So your last album, your the last Project Gemini album, which was the brilliant Stories and Legends, had a specific theme related to Canada. It's called Canada Stories and Legends. It's on Bandcamp. Brilliant album, Mark. And it had a consistent theme, kind of a homage to Canada, I
Mhm.
guess, and some really interesting historical facts we include in the album. Is there a central theme for your new album?
um I guess if there's gonna be a central theme, it's there wasn't really that way. Like I said, a lot of the lyrics were just based around situations that happened in my past, or whether it was last year or last 5 years or something that was sort of a sort of a I'm not I don't know if I want to say negative influence on my life, but it was something that just wasn't uh was a situation I didn't want to be in. So I've always believed in that whole fact that the best way to get something off of your mind is to talk about it. I've always heard that from many people saying that, if you want to get something off your chest and you want to move forward for something, you have to acknowledge it first and then you can move forward from it. So I guess the running theme in this is things that I wanted to get away from.
Mhm, mhm. So, did you come up with these songs all at the same time, or were some left over from earlier projects?
Musically, this is all new. Musically,
Okay.
this is all completely written from from scratch. There was nothing taken from anything prior. It does happen once in a while on certain records. I think book three, there was maybe one song that I had left over from book two that I used, for example, and stuff like that. But it's very rarely that I do that. I tend to like to uh, start something. Whenever I start a new project, I get excited and want to do something fresh all the time. I don't like going backwards unless it's a remix or something like that that has to be done.
I was listening to the song "Force of Nature," which you released. I think
Mm.
it was last June. Was it? Yeah, "Force of Nature,"
Okay.
"Ride the Airwaves," "Hold Your Head High," and "The Silent Flight," all of which are available on Bandcamp, and they were all released as singles. And when
Yeah.
I heard the first one, which I think was "Force of Nature," was that the first release from
Yeah.
that? When I first heard that, I thought, "Oh, this is fantastic." I wonder if this is going to be a part of a theme from a new Project Gemini album. And then you mentioned on your social media that you really these were singles, standalone singles, that you weren't going to include them in the album. Um, and I loved all four of the singles, but I don't. Going back to what we just talked about, I don't know
Mhm.
if it would have fit on this album necessarily, given the theme you mentioned. Um, was there any thought about maybe including those on with this cycle of songs?
Um, Not really. I mean, when I did these four songs, I did them with a very specific reason. Number one was because I had recently, and let's put it this way, all the time I kind of like learning new things, whether it's mixing, songwriting, different techniques, different production ideas. And I had learned quite a few different tricks and stuff like that. And I read a lot of articles that were really inspiring from a production end of things. And I thought to myself, I'd really like to try these things out. And what I decided to do was, why not just write a couple of singles and approach this totally differently? Because what I usually do was I would go and write a bunch of songs, put them in rough form, and then start recording, do all the drums, do all the guitars, do all the bass. But this time I decided to tackle everything one song at a time. I wrote one song, did the drums, recorded the guitar, recorded the bass, and just worked on one song until it was completely done, mixed, mastered, period. It was done. And then move on to the next song. And this let me go ahead with the idea of doing different production tricks, different ideas of recording. Because what I used to do before is I would record the guitars, put them down, move on to my vocals and stuff like that. And then at the end, I would mix everything, and that's that. But this time, I kind of took a little different approach. And most people know that I'm not a big fan of Bob Ezrin as far as a producer for Kiss, but I love him on other things. But one thing that he does quite a lot is he commits to effects when he's recording. So if he does a guitar recording, if he adds choruses, if he wants to add chorus to it, he'll do it right there and put it all on tape. So when by the time he gets to his mixing phase, all he has to do is just pretty much adjust levels, maybe a bit of compression and some panning, and he's done. And I thought that was a fascinating idea because number one, you have to commit to a way that the song was going to be when it was done. Like
Mhm.
you have to already kind of have a final vision of it when you were doing it this way. And it's kind of ballsy because you have to say to yourself, once I'm doing this, I can't go back and take it off now. When that delay is there, it's there now, right?
Right.
So I did it this way, and I was very happy with Force of Nature. So I took that approach and applied them all to the other three songs as well. So all four had this approach, and one of them maybe had like a little. I tried something different with the compression. Maybe one of the ones I tried something different with the vocals, and I was all happy with it. And then I went forward and started to apply these techniques now confidently to other recordings now.
Oh, that's wonderful, Mark. The Dark Days of Yesterday sounds sonically powerful. I mean,
Mm.
it does, and the songs are strong. They're really strong. Um, and those four singles released last year were all excellent. I think I reviewed every one of them. I enjoyed them all. So you're not missing anything by not having those songs on this album. But if any of the listeners don't have those four songs, I encourage them to go back and buy those four songs along with the album. Mark, may I ask you about some particular songs from the album?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can I start with "Here to Call"? The introduction, the beginning of the song
Mhm.
is epic. It sounds amazing. Talk about the song a little bit with me, to me.
Hear the Call was one of those songs that uh, I kind of went in with a sort of approach where I had the lyric idea in mind, right? Where it was sort of like the call, whether it's spiritual or whatever, to pull yourself out of a situation. You know what I mean? And like I said, I wasn't in, maybe not in a good place, and sometimes, and there always comes a point whether it's a family member or a friend, or like I even said, maybe some higher spirit calls to you and helps pull you out of a situation. That was hence the lyrical aspect of Hear the Call. And because of that sort of idea, I wanted to make the music sort of epic in that stature. So I was very big on using those kind of clean guitar tones, those sort of very moogie like low end bass keyboard stuff, and I really wanted also to have the bass come in a little bit more on this album, a little bit more melodic, a little bit more, you know, in the spectrum a bit more clearer. Like I think the
Mhm.
last couple albums, while bass has always been a very important part of my music, sometimes it's more present in the mix, and other times it's not as much present. But this one, I wanted to have it a little bit more upfront on some of the songs, and I think it really turned out really well on this song in particular. I mean, especially not only at the beginning, but I think the whole ending sequence at the end there, where it comes into another whole epic part. There's a lot of little bass and drum interplay going on there, while there's some
Yeah.
very harmonic and harmonious vocals going on.
Yeah, the mid song tempo change is brilliant, and then he's anthematic. How do you say that? These really,
Anthemic, yeah.
thank you, lead guitar parts. Oh my God, Mark, fantastic. And I wrote down in my notes: is there a 12-string electric guitar in the bridge? Or that sound during the bridge? I'm not
Yeah,
sure if you know what I'm talking about there.
no, I know what you're talking about, and I do. I have a double neck guitar, 12/6. Sort of like the Jimmy Page, Alex Lifeson sort of model there, and it's become very handy for those kind of parts. You know what I mean? Like where you come in and think, I want to have a clean guitar, but I also wanted to have a little bit more life to it. So a 12 string is always perfect for that. But of course, those guitars are also kind of tricky sometimes, especially if you put them through an amp, they can get a little muddy. So I decided to take the different approach and just go DI with it, and then just kind of trim it and sculpt it a bit better with the EQ. And it turned out really good. I was very happy with the way that sound in particular came out. And it's great that you have such a tuned ear to that, Preston. I'm very impressed with that.
It's a wonderful song. This is the first song on the album, right? Hear the Call, or will it be the first song on the album?
Actually, it's going to be the third song. Hear the
Okay,
Call is going to be third. Yeah.
I have them out of order then. I love the song. I love the instrumentation. Love the lyrics. It is wonderful. One thing you always talk about when you're on the podcast is your gear. Do you have anything new that you've added for this album, or had it before this album and used on this album?
Um, yeah, actually, there's a couple things that I ended up getting. Uh, I got myself a few different pedals. Actually, if you just hang on 1 second, I'll show you one of
Sure.
them. Uh, this
Always good to
here,
see new gear.
yeah, excuse me. This here is called a Jims 45. It's done by TC Electronics. What it is an emulation of a Marshall JTM or JMP 45, which is an old 1960s style Marshall amp, right? And while most Marshalls are known to be very heavy and very punchy, like the JCM 800s or the 900s or even the 2000s, this is the very early end of stuff. Very tube like. Excuse me, and um, it has a more smoother tone, and this in combination with one of my other sort of sounds, which is more like a 5150 amp model, which is a lot heavier and
Mhm.
very metal like. When you combine these two sounds together and blend them in such a way, you can get that really rich smoothness of the Marshall, and then the sort of detailed definition of the 5150, and it ended up being a very good guitar sound. I was very happy with the way that turned out.
Oh, fantastic. Let's jump to the next song on my list, which may not be the next song on the album, which is I'll Be There. Um, some really interesting synth sounds on the intro,
Mm-hmm.
then the chorus guitar part, and powerful solos. And I also wrote Hammond organ touches.
Yes. The Hammond organ is something that's become quite a favorite for me. Being a guy who loves Yes as much as, I do, with Mr. Wakeman using it quite a bit, and of course, Tony Kaye and other people. The Hammond organ is something that I've always had a great love affair with. And now that I have a couple of different keyboards, I have my EX7, which has a decent Hammond in it, but behind me I have a, a Roland RDO8, and that keyboard is a like a big like 88 key keyboard, and it has a really great Hammond in that. I think it's called Purple Spin, a la Deep Purple, and it has because that's a Leslie in there as well that you can
Ah,
activate in there. So yeah, so
rotating
you'll get
Leslie
that.
speakers.
Oh yeah, you'll get that do 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 spinning going on there, and I use that quite a bit on this song, and it's this song I was particularly very happy with for a few reasons. One of them being that there's a bit of orchestra parts in there in the pre-chorus and in the chorus especially. There's a section where there's a lot of violins, cellos, and like contrabass and stuff like that in there. And then in the chorus, I have a section of those as well. But I also and I thank Joe Bailey for this because he sort of showed me the light when it comes to orchestra construction, where I put in brass in there too, French
Hmm.
horn, some trumpets and stuff like that. And when I combined it together, man, it turned into a really large sounding piece of music. And I really, really thought that that was a good addition to it. And lyrically, that song is again sort of a little one of those things where the lyric is a little bit more not predictable, but you can understand it a lot easier. I'll be there for you. Basically, somebody who comes to somebody who's in a place where they're not too good and is trying to pull them out of it and comes with some resistance to it. I mean, if you listen to the pre-chorus, one of the lines in there is, "If you knew how I feel, you would run away from me," kind of thing, deal, right? And so in that, I wanted to show that there was always sometimes, well, not always, but sometimes there's some pushback from people coming out of those situations, right? So I think it turned out really well. It is one of my more favorite songs off this record, and it is, if you look at it from a vinyl perspective, um, that song would be side B, song one, so track 4 of the album.
Oh, okay. Wonderful song. I love it. Next song on my list, I know I'm having to take them out of order, but the song is You Are the One. What can you
Yes,
tell me about that one?
"You Are the One" is going to be the opening track of the
Okay.
album. I definitely believe in the sort of idea that you should try to open with something a little bit more punchy, high energy, you know, unless you're doing a real conceptual record, only then can I kind of understand why somebody would start with an acoustic piece or something at the top. Usually I'm a believer of starting off strong with something. And this song, I was very happy with it. I thought the drums turned out really good on this one,
Mhm.
very punchy. I took a different approach where I kind of wasn't afraid. I don't think afraid is the right word, but I decided not to be so concerned. There's a better word to turn the drums up more because before I found that my drums were decent in the mixes, but I found that they were sometimes, they were there, but they didn't have some of the impact I would hope for. But now, like the toms jump out now a lot more. The snare is pretty in your face, and on headphones especially, you kind of get the feel of the room that they're in as well, right? So uh, I think it turned out really good. And again, one of the things that's a bit different is it's not too overly long a song. I mean, I have a tendency of writing 8, 9 minute pieces, and on this record, I have one or two that are maybe 5 minutes long or so. So you know, I wanted to mix it up a bit from that way as well because I've always, I don't know, Preston, I've always noticed that I have this concern sometimes that if I don't come up with a song with like 7 different pieces in it, that people might get bored. Like I think that people sometimes have a low attention span, so I always think I got to put in a lot of different things to keep their attention. But I'm finding that that's not always the case. That if the parts are decent enough, strong enough, you can write a song with 4 parts and people will enjoy it just as much.
Interesting, because one of the things that I sometimes think when I listen to epics by Yes is that some of their epics don't seem to fit together. They
Mhm.
seem to be different parts thrown together to make a song.
Yeah.
Not all of them, because they have some great epics, obviously, but some of them do. When with yours, I mean, we've talked about a few on your album already. So they all seem to be gelling as a cohesive song.
Mm.
Now, some may have different parts. You may have a pre-chorus, a chorus, but but they all seem to work together
Yeah.
musically very well. So that's one thing I really appreciate. Yeah, thank you, Mark. Let's go to Seek the Truth.
Ah. Seek the Truth was the first song that I wrote actually for this record. Um, I, again, it was another high piece, like high energy piece.
Fast pace,
And
yeah.
yeah, and this one was the one that I was sort of uh, unsure about whether I should make it track one or not. So between You Are the One and this one, there was always that competition. Which one should be the opener? And both of them do exactly what I hope they do. They jump out. They have a high energy. There's a lot of energizing drums, some double kick stuff going on in there as well. That harken back to some of my earlier material, which had a lot of more of that kind of drumming in it. Uh, and there's just I really enjoy some of the vocals in this. I mean, I tried to branch out a little bit more with my melodies, so some of the range of the singing as well. And just like with everything else, I'm sure you can attest to this as well. As the more that you do something, the better you get at it. So the more you sing, you're going to get better as a singer. The more you play guitar, the better. So I'm finding that as I'm continuing to do music constantly, these things are starting to blossom and get much better. And I'm finding that, especially not only on my guitar playing, that the harmonies I thought I've been very happy with, but even the vocal harmonies, I've decided to spend a lot more time on trying to put in some harmonies that are not so common. Maybe put in a line that's just one pitch and then put another harmony under it to counter it and do different melodies under it. And it's a technique that I've heard lots of different people do. Queen does that quite a bit as
Mhm.
well. And I love those kind of grandiose sort of harmonic tendencies in the vocals as well.
I love the song. When I listen to an album that I'm going to review, I'll listen to it a bunch of times,
Mhm.
and then eventually I'll listen to it and I will assign the songs I listen I give them certain points.
Yeah.
I kind of rank them. And you were talking about an opening track. "Seek the Truth" is was one of my favorite songs from this album,
Oh,
of an
great.
album which I love. Anyway, it's just it's I love the pace of it. I love the tempo. I love that snarling lead guitar you have. It just works when it clicks on all cylinders. Now, Mark, there are no bad songs in this album. They're all good.
Yeah.
Like you were
Thank you.
talking about, which one would you start? Which one would you open the album with? You can't go wrong with these. You really can't. Yeah, I loved it. So I'm going to jump to "A Voice in the Dark."
Ah.
Um, that has a lot of different intricate guitar parts to it. Some really wonderful drumming, some ominous synthesizer. Talk to me about "A Voice in the Dark."
Now, this song is the long one. This is like near 10 minutes long. This song, it's like nine and change, I believe. Uh, it's one of those songs that I really enjoy doing. Um, I don't go in when I write a song with an idea like this is going to do this and it's going to be this. I kind of write, and what comes out uh, is what comes out. And sometimes, because of the beauty of Pro Tools, you can sometimes go in, write a song, and say, you know what, this part here, I think it would be better as a verse part. Let me cut this out, move it back over here, and see how it sounds now when I put it this way. And a lot of the times, but this song especially, it turned out to work very well doing that. This has a sort of lengthy introduction piece where it's just a very quiet keyboard, and then like a little guitar piece that starts at the top with it, and then again it goes into another sort of clean guitar part with some melodic lead guitar playing and stuff like that. And if you were to look at it, you could almost do this song where you could say, this is, you know, part one, part two, part three of the song. But I didn't want to do it
Yeah.
that way. I wanted to just recognize it as one song together. All right. And I really like the way this one turned out. Uh, you know, the voice in the dark kind of represents the other end of the spectrum. So far, lyrically, I'm talking about things to help somebody get out of a situation. And this almost talks about the thing that got you into the situation. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That voice in
Okay.
the dark that says, forget about that. Do it. Do it. Do it if you want to do it. Even if you know it's not right. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And everybody battles with these things. I'm pretty sure everybody in their life has had some fight with the angel on one side and the devil on the other, right? And this song kind of talks about the devil part of it in there, right? And just like how I approached my Canada record, the Stories and Legends, where I love Canada and I wanted to talk about the good stuff, but I thought it would be a misrepresentation to only talk about the good, because there's always something that we've done wrong as a country and a nation as well, and it would be unfair to not talk about that as well, to show that we're human just like everybody else in this country, right? So that's also the way I kind of approached the lyrics with this, that just to show people that you know it isn't all. I didn't only think about the positive end of it. There was also that other part to think about as well. And musically, I love this. I mean, I like the guitar playing in here that I've done. I like a lot of
Mm.
the leads are the things that
Wow.
I'm probably most happy with, along as well as the vocals, because for me the vocals are always a challenge, because it's the sort of quote unquote instrument that I came to last as a musician, right?
Hmm.
So that's the thing that I always feel I need to work on the most.
Wow, that's so much. There's so much here in the voice in the dark. There's a section where it sounds as if there's a finger picked electric guitar,
Mhm.
and then there's the really. You talked earlier about some of the soundscapes and the orchestration. Here
Yeah.
is the synth sounds are really ominous and really on point. And then there's a guitar section which is mind blowing, Mark.
Thank you.
What were you playing? Do you remember what instrument, which guitars you were playing on this
Uh,
song?
yeah, on this guitar, I use two different guitars. I use my SG. I have a Gibson SG guitar, which I really love. The thing about this uh, SG is usually Gibson guitars come with what's called a 490 style pickup, which is in the Les Pauls usually, stuff like that.
Okay.
But this model that came out, they put in what's called the 60s T model pickup, which is harkens back more to like the mid 1960s sounds of the electric guitar, and it's really much more crunchier and a bit more bitier. So I wanted to use that sound in there, and I use my Les Paul as well. The Les Paul is a guitar that I've really grown to love on here. And another thing, I'm glad you brought up the finger picking guitar bits, because for that I pulled out my Stratocaster for that.
Oh.
And Stratocasters are always great for those kind of finger pick things that you want to jump out a little bit more. And it turned out really well. I mean, again, what I was very happy with is that I gave myself the time to sit down and not just come up with a sound and say, okay, I'm going to record. Now I sat down, went through some of it, tried some different sounds. Let's try putting a chorus on, or let's try putting something here, add a little bit more compression, and then kind of sculpt the sound to how I wanted it rather than do it later. I wanted to do everything as I was recording. So that was a great help to it, and it helped shape the sound of the album as a whole.
Yeah, there's so many great sounds. You need repeated listening. Headphones would help because there's so much going on here, but it's so well orchestrated and produced, Mark, and it works really, really well. The drumming in your albums have always been strong. The bass is strong, and but this, if you're I'm not a guitarist, but if you're a guitarist, my God, there's so much here for you to glean. That it's fantastic. So that covers all the songs in the album. If it's okay with you, may I ask you about the things you fear? Because that's a great
Yeah.
song too, and
Yes.
that's not on the album.
Well, basically, what I just decided to do with this is that for the longest time they were all considered to be on the album, of course, right? Now, as you well know, Preston, you being one of the earliest supporters of this project, you know that I like releasing vinyl as well as CD. Now, with vinyl, you have a limitation, and that is that you need to keep each side between, let's say, 18 to 22 minutes long. That's the sort of sweet spot. Now, if I was to put all 6 songs on the album, I occur this problem where I start getting into like 24 minutes or 25 minutes on a side, and the guy who always does my lacquer cuts for me, he always kind of like, Mark, I told you about this. If you put that much music on here, I'll have to cut the volume or I'll have to do something that I wouldn't recommend doing, right? So I always keep that in mind now. And while I do love that song very much, I think it turned out excellent, right? Uh,
Yes.
there has to be one that has to be taken out of the equation for the vinyl, at least. Now, I did this once before. I believe it was "What's on Your Mind." That album, there was 5 songs on there, but there was a sixth, and the sixth one did appear on the CD, but not on the vinyl.
Right.
All right. Now, what I'm going to probably do with this one is I'm going to release that song as a non-album single, right? Sort of think of Marillion. Marillion used to do this great thing where they would release a single on 12-inch, and then on the other side they'll have songs that are not on the album, but they're still studio recorded cuts that they love, like Grendel and some of these other songs that come to mind that they did over the years that were just fantastic B-sides. So I'm gonna, of course, make it available digitally, and I'm still pondering whether to put it on CD. I might put it on the CD, right, just so that there's a proper physical release of it as well. But for the vinyl end of it, I'll have to have that problem one probably omitted from it.
Yeah. I mean, the songs on the album are all great. And I know it'll be, as a producer, as a person who produces their own music, I know it's a difficult decision to say which one goes on and which one can I
Yeah.
move to something else or single. But the things you fear is also excellent. Mark, you really outdid yourself this time. Um, and your albums are always well produced, well played, well sung. They're great albums. This is really a great cohesive project. Now, you alluded to the fact, and you have produced some really wonderful vinyl for Project Gemini, collector's vinyl. I mean, the packaging is great, the artwork is fantastic, the posters, the pullouts are fantastic, colored vinyl, beautiful stuff. Now, the problem is, I'm in the United States and you're in outside of Toronto in Canada.
Mhm.
So, are we going to have vinyl? Can I at some point be able to buy a CD, given all the tariff stuff that's going on?
Um, yeah, I mean, of course, when this started happening, I was kind of like, oh boy, what's going to happen now from my end of it? Because I've already heard lots of stories from other people saying that they've had so many issues trying to send stuff. Some countries are almost refusing entry of things, as well, which is sort of a, sorry state because I know a lot of different countries buy my stuff, right? And just to realize that there's a possibility that somebody could order it and not receive it is something that doesn't sit well with me. Now, in the US, I do have one sort of ace card up my sleeve is that I do have somebody who has helped me over the last 4 or 5 albums at least to help me get stuff, in the US and shipped out. So what I'll usually do is I'll take the pre-orders, you know, get everything done, and then I'll ship him all the pre-orders that were done in one huge package via Federal Express. Okay. And yeah, I might get dinged with some tariff on that, I'm assuming as well, right? But I find it's going to be a lot easier to do it this way because I'll just have to deal with that once. What's in the United States, he can sense everything in within country and there's no issue anymore. So I would say to people who want to buy it, don't fear. I think that it's going to go forward as is, but I still, of course, have to figure out what the tariff is going to be like on my end to send it and stuff like that. But I think I can make it work, and I think I might have to ask my friend here to help me probably with the CDs as well from that end of it. I'll get everybody to place their orders. I'll send them a bulk amount of them, and then he can send them out from within there, right? Europe, that's another thing. I'll have to figure that out as it goes. But as for now, Canada obviously is going to be okay. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. And then, but the US, I think we're not going to have a problem. Why I said Canada, I'll talk about it in a second, is because right now there's a postal strike in Canada.
Oh, wow.
Yay.
Hmm.
So nothing's going anywhere here. So, yeah, I don't know. This is something that's been happening for quite a while. Give me one second. My voice is getting a bit hoarse here.
Sure. And I'm not a fan of streaming music, but I'm especially I like the physical product, and you produce such a wonderful physical product, whether it be CD or vinyl. But I always get the vinyl because your vinyls are just
Yeah,
so. I mean, they are top shelf. They really are.
thank you. And I mean, I being a fan of vinyl myself, and fan of Yes and Kiss and Genesis, I have fond memories of these albums. Like getting a Kiss record and finding, oh, there's a sticker in here. Wow, that's kind of neat. Or wow, there's a booklet here that goes through their history, or just or Genesis. You open their gatefolds or take out their inserts, and there's such amazing images and little stories in there and stuff like. So I'm a big believer in when somebody sends me, $30 Canadian for a record, that I want them to feel that that's $30 well spent. That's how I've always kind of looked at it, because there's been a lot of records I've bought over the years, even more recently with this vinyl resurgence that's happened, where record companies are like, wow, we're selling them hand over foot here. So they just put out records, and some of them have been putting them on garbage paper sleeves, no inserts in there. You would be surprised how many records I bought. There's not even an insert, no lyric insert. What's going on here? Nothing. And the inner sleeves are terrible. You're scared to take it in and out once or twice. It's going to get scratched to hell, right? But I always put polylined inner sleeves. I've always had full color lyric insert booklets, posters, hype stickers on the front. I mean, I want people to feel that when they have a record, whether it's a major label even as well, that when they get mine, they say, I know that when I give this guy $30, it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, I always feel that I've gotten a great product when I've gotten a Project Gemini album in the mail. I just love the vinyl. I'm looking forward to its release. I think you mentioned it's going to be out on Halloween, October
Mhm.
31st, 2026. Will the vinyl be available about the same time, or are you thinking a little bit later?
Um, See, that's always dependent on other people too, because don't forget, I mean, as much as I do everything, that when the day comes that I can press my own albums, that'll be fantastic,
Ah,
but I'd love that one day. You know it depends on many things. Unfortunately, like I just told there's a postal strike, number one. And usually while my guy who does my lacquers is in Ontario, he we would have to now figure out a way for him to send me stuff back and forth. And don't forget, Train Records that presses all my albums and has done a fantastic job over the years with my albums. What's going to happen with them? They need to get product in. They need to get supplies. With a postal strike, how's this going to happen? What's going to happen? So I will say this for now: on the 31st of October, 2025, the album will be available to hear on my Bandcamp, to download from my Bandcamp. And most likely, the first thing that comes first always is the CDs. And because they get done pretty quick, their turnaround is maybe like 2 weeks, I think now. That's a pretty quick turnaround. So if you're a CD fan, and I've had a lot of people buy CDs, which is a great thing, right? Then I don't think there's going to be too much of a concern or too long a wait. But let's put it this way: if you haven't joined my Facebook group, the Project Gemini one, please do. I update stuff regularly. I have a YouTube channel as well for Project Gemini. Join it because I always keep people up to date on there as well. And I'll keep you guys in the loop. As when I know, you'll know.
excellent. So I'll make sure I include a link to your Bandcamp store, and people can look through your catalogs. You have so much music. There's so much great music there. And also a link to your YouTube page as well.
Mhm.
Mark, anything else you want to add?
Excuse me. Yeah, I'll add one more thing. Right now, I'm working on another record with Joe, with the Dark Monarchy.
Dark Monarchy.
We have the songs pretty much all written and constructed. Now we're just getting through the process of, doing all the overdubbing and writing lyrics and stuff like that. So this one's taking a little bit longer just because Joe had a record that came out as well in between now, and I've been working on a record, so the time hasn't been as plentiful as it had been in the past. But fear not, there will be a new Dark Monarchy record, and in 2026, I already have another Projekt Gemineye album pretty much ready to go for next year as well. So there'll be more music coming down the wire.
Mark, you're nonstop. It's just great quality music, great playing, great writing, great production. I'm looking forward to this release. I'm looking forward to your Dark Monarchy stuff. The Dark Days of Yesterday is another feather in your cap, my friend. It's excellent. So thank you for that. Also, thank you for your contributions to the book. Yes, indeed.
Yes,
Hills
yes.
from Yes without John Anderson. I appreciate your knowledge about Yes and your knowledge about music, man. Great stuff.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I've thoroughly enjoyed that. And if anybody hasn't gotten their copy of that yet, you really must get it. It's a fantastic book. I think Preston did a incredible job on this book. I'm very happy to be even mentioned in this book. So thank you, Preston, for that, and thank you, Preston, for your support. I mean, throughout the years, you've been very supportive. Every time I put out a record, the one thing that comes into my mind right away is I know that Preston Fraser is going to be one of the people to review them and to talk about it. So believe me, it's not something I overlook or take for granted. Thank you, Preston.
Well, I appreciate that. I still know how you do it, Mark, because it's constantly quality, 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 and it's so quick. So, man, thanks a lot, and you take care of yourself.
You too, Preston.